with a possible Heisman sighting in Palo Alto.
And the soccer team heads back to the field after their national championship run.
And we look at the Buffs diet. Sports Mag now. And welcome to another edition of CU Sports Mag. I'm Andy McDonnell, sitting alongside my co-host Derek Kessinger. And well, the Buffs were in action this weekend, but none were in Boulder.
And so we had to head out to California for the first highlights, and Palo Alto and Stanford.
Let's roll those.
And so the Buffs headed out to just outside of San Francisco, Palo Alto, to take on number 7 Stanford and Andrew Luck. Luck is projected to be a top pick in the NFL draft. Opening kickoff, Will Oliver kicks it off to Stanford's 35, and the ball comes loose. There's a pileup, and John Major recovered it. It was one of 2 Stanford turnovers. Luck would also throw a pick, and the Buffs set up deep in Stanford's territory. Great way to start for an underdog. Stanford was a 30-point favorite in this game. So we move on. The Buffs don't do anything on that opening drive, and so they will have to kick a field goal. Will Oliver with the kick, and it's blocked by Max Bergen. He will take it down the field, 75 yards, and that's a tough one to start the game, and the Buffs would have to play from behind already so early in the game. And so we move on. The Buffs, that was their second. And so on Stanford's first drive, Luck hands it off to Taylor for the touchdown. It was one of 3 one-yard runs for touchdowns for Stanford. Gaffney and Stewart also scored. Stanford up 13-0. So the Buffs would have to try to come back from behind, and Hansen would take the pass back, give it to Rodney Stewart, who would run the ball for 76 yards. What a play across the field, dodging the receivers. He would not quite make it to the end zone, though. Tony Jones would ultimately score for the Buffs, their only touchdown of the day.
Andrew Luck now, have you heard of him? This time finds Colorado native and Mullen High School graduate Ryan Hewitt for the 1-yard touchdown. First of 3 touchdowns on the day, puts the Cardinal up 27-7 before intermission. Like we said, 29-point favorites, almost surpassing that before intermission. This time once again to Hewitt for the touchdown, putting the Cardinal up 37-7 this time. But Buffs, no quit left in them. Tyler Hansen had a rough day through the air, but in part due to the injury of star wide receiver Paul Richardson. And he takes it upon himself, gains 25 yards, little shimmy there, to the Stanford 37-yard line. Buffs wouldn't capitalize on that, giving it right back to none other than Andrew Luck. You can't do that. CU's defense not alone in this category. 30-yard touchdown to one of his players and score, and ends up 49-7 the final as the Buffs lose. Stanford moves to 5-0 on the season. Buffs 1-4. Let's take a look at those stats. Hansen 15-29, 1 interception. Stewart 11 for 21 yards, leading receiver in Colorado Buffs history.
And Luck 26 for 33 with 307 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception.
Buffs weren't the only Pac-12 team in action. We take a look now around the league.
Well, lots of excitement here in Pac-12. First game for the Buffs, but there was a lot of excitement on the road as well.
Let's take a look at those highlights from the Pac-12. Here we go. And we start with Arizona going to Corvallis to take on Oregon State. Nick Foles, the 3rd in the nation in passing yards per game, throwing around 380 yards a game. This time, he's picked off. Beavers steal the game from Arizona. Shaquille Richardson catches the ball, and that's a pick. Nick Foles doing his best, but Oregon State still too much to handle. Although this pick goes the other way, Oregon State, the Beavers win it going away. Beavers win. Then we take you to Arizona State versus Utah. Utah pulling out all the stops this time. Jim Hayes gets the flea flicker and throws it deep to Kenneth Scott. But Arizona State, the number 22 team in the nation, Brock Weiler continues to sneak up on people. They win going away 35-14 and move 4 spots, taking on Oregon this week.
Now we head to UCLA and Washington State, and the option for Richard Bearhart, and he goes down, and he would not get back up after this one. Neuheisel, the coach for UCLA, had a tough decision between Bearhart and Kevin Prince, but the decision was made for him on this injury as Kevin Prince would have to come into the game. Bearhart would not give up. But Washington State going the other way, they would get the throw down the field. A nice throw there, throw to Ricky Garland, and he would score. But UCLA would still have a chance. They would come back, the drop back for the pass, and the throw down the field to Rosario. Kevin Prince with the throw there. They would ultimately score on that drive and win it 28-25.
The 2011 season is the 10th anniversary for the Buffs' Big 12 championship. And with that in mind, we will bring you this week's trivia question. Which player was named to the NCAA All-American team in that year, 2001? Was it A, Andre Gurode, B, Daniel Graham, or C, Alfred Williams? We'll have the answer coming up later in the show.
With the Buffs' 1-5 start this season, Coach John Embry is eager to gain his first win away from home. In this week's poll question, we ask you which game you think will change the Buffs' 21-game losing streak on the road. You think it will be at Washington this week, Arizona State over Halloween weekend, UCLA before Thanksgiving, or the final game of the year at Utah? Cast your vote on our website at cusportsmag.com.
That's right. Cast your vote. Don't go anywhere. After the break, we'll tell you who the one Buff is that went to the White House after nearly a quarter century of waiting.
And Andy, we welcome another team to the Pac-12 as the University of Washington Huskies host the Buffs this weekend. Stay tuned.
Let's sit down for a second, okay? So hey, Kayla, there's Mary from your class.
Hi, Mary. Hi, Kayla. Come and play.
Oh, sweetie. Why don't you go play with those kids over there?
Why?
Imagine the power of one voice. Find yours at freedomcenter.org.
Colorado heads to the Northwest for the first time in over a decade to take on Washington on the gridiron. With that game, we will continue our 11-part series profiling the rest of the Pac-12 Conference. Ron Knauenbauer tells us about the Huskies from the University of Washington.
After being whomped by Stanford, the Buffs season doesn't get any easier as they head to Seattle this week to take on the Washington Huskies. Washington is led by power running back Chris Polk, who anchors an offense that is dangerous on the ground and in the air. In a conference full of great quarterbacks, Polk's name is often forgotten, but he doesn't mind not having the spotlight on him.
I like that all focuses on the quarterbacks. You know, I like to surprise people. You know, I'm not gonna go out there. And I like when people don't like a plan for me. And I just come out there and like just the look on people's faces when you surprise them and you know that you got them. That's priceless. One of my favorite moments of football.
Talking with Chris Polk in the offseason, some of the things that he said that he had improved on was his toughness and staying on his feet after the first hit. So far through 5 games this season, Polk has proved it, with him averaging 5.3 yards per carry for a total of 611 yards rushing. Those numbers, along with Polk's 5'11" frame, has caught the eye of many in the conference, including Colorado's John Embry, who said he would love to have a back with the power and size like Polk.
I told EB, you know, every running back he recruits from here on, he has to look up to him. So I give him that kind of parameter to start with. So I think it's important that you have a big back.
With Jake Locker now in the NFL, Keith Price is the new quarterback. And so far, he has lived up to the high expectations at the position, as he's thrown for 17 touchdowns, which is the second most in the nation.
The thing I get a sense from watching him on tape is he's got great mindset. You know, whether he fumbles the ball in the pocket or he throws an interception, he comes right back.
The Buffs will enter Husky Stadium still looking to end their road losing streak, which is now stretched to 21 games. If CU can't stop Price in the air and Polk on the ground, it may be another long plane ride back home for the Buffs. Ron Knuppenbauer, CU Sports Mag.
Alexis Perry and Rose Heaphy are on the double team desk.
Take it away.
Hi, I'm Rose Heaphy here at the Double Team Desk with Alexis Perry. We're going to talk a little bit of CU football. Now, the Buffs are going to be heading to the Pacific Northwest this weekend to take on Keith Price and the Huskies. But before we get into that, we're going to recap a little bit about Stanford. So when they played Stanford, what exactly happened for the Buffs that game?
Well, you know, last week, the Buffaloes took on number 7 Stanford and Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck is arguably one of the best quarterbacks in the nation. You know, we were able to watch his best passing performance of the season with 370 yards. You know, he completed 26 of 33 passes. He threw for 3 touchdowns, and he threw a second interception of the season, but, you know, for the Buffaloes, that was definitely not enough to slow him down. Hansen had an interesting game. He went 15 for 29 passes. He had 1 interception and about 202 yards. But, you know, compared to Andrew Luck, that's like comparing apples to oranges. There's no comparison whatsoever. You know, CU could just not compete with this team on Saturday.
Absolutely, and there was just a lot of things that just didn't go right for CU. And if I had to pick really one area, I think I'd have to pick special teams. Now, I'll grant it, the special teams, they had a great first play of the game. They took that a turnover over from Stanford. They got the ball back. That is a great play. If I could get the ball back at the first play of every game, that would be fantastic. But the Buffs, they go all the way down the field. They can't quite punch it in the red zone, so they go for the field goal. Unfortunately, it is blocked, and Stanford, they're able to take it all the way back for a touchdown. When it should have been 3-0, now it's 7-0 Stanford. That is just a demoralizing blow to the momentum for CU, and that you just can't have that on a team when you're trying to start out. And it really points out that CU's been at those really, really slow starts this season.
Yeah, definitely. And you know what? Like you mentioned last week, the Cardinal team was stacked. They had great players such as Gaffney, Whalen, Hewitt. You know, these guys all had great stats for the game. But, you know, CU, we did have one really great play where Rodney Stewart took it down the field 76 yards, which eventually led to Tyler Hansen throwing to Tony Jones for our one and only touchdown of the game. You know, while this was a really great play, it's not enough when you're playing against a team like this. It's really not, unfortunately.
It's just not enough. CU, they're just outmatched by the Cardinals. Stanford is just too good. So, but we could talk about this game all we want, and we got to look ahead. CU is now playing, they're going to be playing Keith Price and the Huskies this weekend. Now, Keith Price, he is another great quarterback. We're going straight from number 1 top seed quarterback in the nation to number 2. Keith Price, he's tied 4-way with a couple other quarterbacks for second in the nation. So definitely not just your run-of-the-mill quarterback right there. He's only thrown 4 interceptions his entire season, and he's thrown 17 touchdowns. So he's definitely something to contend with.
Yes, he is definitely an impressive quarterback. But, you know, as a team as a whole, they are 4-1 this season, 2-0 in the Pac-12. They've beaten teams such as Eastern Washington, which was kind of a given for them. And they have also beaten Hawaii, Cal, and Utah. Hawaii and Cal are both games that I thought that Colorado could definitely win. And Utah is a game that I'm looking forward to Colorado winning. So, you know, going against a team that has won against such great teams, Colorado's gonna have their match match made, definitely.
Absolutely, but I think what's really crucial coming up in this game is that the Buffs got to look to break that terrible 21 road game losing streak. I mean, I've been on little league teams that haven't lost that many games in a row. The Buffs, it's just embarrassing. They really need to try and break that terrible record. And what they're really going to have to focus on is killing Keith Price's aerial attack. And then we had to look for that secondary to step up.
Yeah, our secondary, Polk, Lockridge, all those guys, they're definitely going to have to step it up with those aerial attacks from Price. But, their offense is a very even, balanced offense where they're rushing just about as much as they are passing. And on the rushing end of it, running back Chris Polk, he is one of the best running backs in the nation as well. This is the kind of running back that even our head coach, John Embry, almost salivates over. And I'm not even kidding. This is the kind of running back that CU wants and really needs, but we obviously don't have this season.
Unfortunately, you're right. The Huskies still have him. And then for CU, the offense is going to obviously have to step it up. They got a big hole missing. Wide receiver Paul Richardson, he's out with a sprained knee, and so that's going to leave a big hole in the offense. So that means Tyler Hansen, Rodney Stewart, and other wide receivers such as Logan Gray and Keenan Carty are really going to have to step it up to fill that hole. He's just a tremendous player, and CU's just going to have to step it up.
Yes, we will.
All right, so that looks like all the time we have now for the Double Team Desk. I'm Rose Heaphy and Alexis Perry. We send it back to the desk.
One of the honors a player gets to experience after they win a Super Bowl is to visit the White House and meet the president. Linebackers coach Brian Cabral, along with former Buff Emory Moorhead, got to take part in that tradition this week. They were on the 1985 Chicago Bear team that beat the New England Patriots to win the Super Bowl. The Bears weren't able to make the trip 25 years ago due to the explosion of Space Shuttle Challenger in January of 1986. The team was famous for the Super Bowl shuffle, didn't let the delay get them down. Cabral said, quote, "It probably meant more to us now than it would have then."
The football team isn't the only Colorado squad to take on the Huskies this week. The soccer team was in Seattle taking on Washington on the pitch Friday. CU sophomore Ann Stoller scored her 4th goal of the year to give the Buffs a 1-0 lead in the first half. The Buffs took the lead into the half, looking to win their first Pac-12 matchup of any Buffs team this year. But earlier in the second half, Washington's Sarah Martinez assisted on a goal and then scored one of her own. Colorado lost the match 2-1, but didn't have to wait long to take on the other Washington team in Pullman Sunday.
The Buffs look to respond from a loss to that Washington team and get their first road win in 2011. Colorado came out playing aggressive, but the Cougars continued their stellar play in the Pac-12. WSU took a 2-0 lead into the half as star Amy Barksick and the Buffs couldn't find an answer. Sophomore Haley Hughes got a red card early in the second half to put Colorado down a player. The Cougars shot the ball 21 times, 14 of which came in the second half, and Annie Brunner surrendered another 2 goals in the second period of play. Colorado lost 4-0 and remained winless in the Pac-12. The Buffs return home to face Oregon on Friday. Coming up after the break, Colorado athletes are told to eat their greens just like the rest of us. But a clean plate isn't the only thing CU is hoping a healthy diet will bring.
And the men's soccer team is defending the national championship. We'll see how they look to plan. They look to repeat.
Are you running on empty after countless late nights studying? Relying on caffeine to keep you awake throughout the day? According to researchers at Brown University, a shocking 89% of college students nationwide struggle to get the necessary 8 hours of sleep recommended each night. Getting a full night's rest promotes a healthy immune system, supports memory function, and restores energy. Sleep is not a waste of time, and sleep deprivation can have serious negative effects on your academic performance and social life. 8 hours. Get some.
Dude. It wastes energy to leave everything on. It's simple. Just turn it off before you go to sleep.
Do your part. Be energy smart.
Listen to me just a second. I'm a good student.
We don't want to be at your party
any
more than you want us here.
What could we have done to avoid this?
Keep the noise down so no one complains.
Hey, guys, keep it down. The neighbors are complaining. Make sure anyone drinking alcohol is at least 21.
You sure you're old enough?
And finally, make sure that you don't have too many people.
Man, that would have been easy. I wish I had known the rules. Now you know. Avoid trouble. Know the rules.
We want to see our children succeed. But setting easy goals for our kids creates the toughest obstacle they'll ever face. Because succeeding in the real world isn't easy. Help the effort to raise standards in America's public schools. Call 1-800-96-PROMISE.
With one national championship under their belt, the CU men's soccer team is hungry to defend their title. Sports Mag's Rose Heaphy met with the team to find out this season's strategy to win it all.
1, 2, 3, CU!
These are the sounds of the defending national champions.
Last year was awesome.
But after graduating nearly 10 seniors, a championship for the CU men's club soccer team may not come as easily.
We're not geared like we were, where we could just go forward and score goals at will. We have to work a little bit harder.
Instead, the team is changing their strategy.
And now with our experienced players gone, we need to play more direct and more long balls and more go straight to goal.
And so far, the plan seems to be working.
They're all sponges. They really soak up the information.
The Buffs stand at 7 wins and 1 tie.
It's not a loss, so we're still undefeated.
The CU men's club soccer team is looking to do anything they can to stay ahead.
They come, they work hard, they battle.
But each game we're getting a little better.
Coach Vaughn says one thing they need to improve upon is defense.
All the way in the line. Defending is always a big thing. It's actually been probably one of the biggest areas we've worked on since I've been here for 3 years now.
The team says they plan to utilize their speed in games. But Captain Aaron Woodruff says they have another advantage.
We love playing soccer, and I think that shows on the field, and that's why we're winning, is because of the love of the game.
For returning player Dan Whittle, a back-to-back championship would end his career on a high note.
It would be amazing. I always joke with my mom that I want to go out like John Elway, a back-to-back national champion.
Vaughn says, however, there's still a long road ahead.
Let's wait and see. We haven't qualified. We have to qualify for regionals first and then qualify for nationals, so maybe we'll do something later on.
Rose Heaphy, CU Sports Mag.
Thank you, Rose. The Buffs took on Washington State Cougars in the second game of their Washington series after losing to the number 3 Huskies the day before. The preseason polls picked the Buffs to finish 11th in the conference, ahead of only Washington State. The Buffs played well in the first 2 sets, but just couldn't find a win in either of them. The Cougars won the first 2, beating the Buffs 25-23. CU held a 1-point lead late in the second set, but Washington State went on a 4-1 run to end the set. The close losses crushed the Buffs' momentum, and the Cougars cruised to an easy win in the third set to take the match. Colorado remains winless in the Pac-12, but they have 2 more opportunities to change all of that this weekend against Arizona and Arizona State.
Nutrition is a basic and can be a way of life for some of the athletic department here at Colorado. The Buffs try to gain an advantage by eating meals that will help them on the field. Andy McDonald tells us how the training table for CU is giving them an edge in competition.
Buff football players follow a strict regimen on a day-to-day basis. One of the most intriguing parts of that routine is eating. Not only that, but what they eat and when they eat it.
One thing is they don't realize how much it will help them.
Nutrition is a key component that cannot be overlooked.
They do need to really start eating better, and it makes a big difference. Nutrient timing, so timing when they're having protein and carbs and fats, all of that makes a big difference.
Colorado's dietitian, Kelly Upiro, helps all athletes, including football players like Brian Lockridge, consume what they need to compete at the highest level.
It's good to know that, we're performing, we're using our bodies, so and able to keep that body preserved and well filled and all that, you have to eat the right thing. So she's here for that purpose, and it's a great thing.
Upiro has to play the role of mom for some of the athletes. She designs the meals, keeping in mind portion size, timing, and doing all of these on a consistent basis.
It's a big difference. You can tell by eating healthy how much energy you have, how fast your body moves, and how fast it heals also.
But she also has to play psychiatrist when it comes to game days.
A lot of them kind of have superstitions that if they don't eat a certain thing, then they're not going to play well. And it actually, I mean, it plays into it. That's why you have to have exactly the same things.
What CU athletes eat at the training table won't win or lose a game, but the Buffs use nutrition to their advantage 3 times a day. Andy McDonald, CU Sports Mag.
Have you figured out this week's trivia question?
I think I have. We'll have that answer coming after the break.
Former CU student, football player, Olympian, and world champion. But most importantly, I'm a forever Buff, which means I'm part of 240,000 students and alums created by the CU Boulder Alumni Association. The University of Colorado will always be something I'm very proud to be a part of. The years that I spent going to school and playing football provided me with some of the best memories of my life. So come join me in creating lifelong CU relationships and explore the Forever Buff program.
Don't be mean. Clean your machine.
That's right. Do I look like a commingled contender to you? All I want is a newspaper.
Why don't you bring that bottle over here? I won't be spitting it back at you.
Alright, boy, why don't you bring that bottle over here to commingle so these boys stop bickering and ruin my night.
After the game against Washington this weekend, the Buffs will be officially more than halfway done with their season. The first 6 games haven't gone exactly the way John Embry has hoped for, as they sit 1-5 overall. Sports Mag's Rose Heaphy went to the CU Rec Center to test some students on the Buffs' midterm football.
Buffs approach the midway point of the season, CU Sports Mag decided to hit campus hotspot, the CU Rec Center, to quiz students on how well the Buffs have been playing this season.
Honestly, I think the Buffs have been playing pretty poorly this season. I haven't seen a lot of play out of our quarterback, Tyler Hansen, and to be completely honest, our defense looks like it doesn't care.
I feel like a lot of players need to take accountability for their own play. You know, I feel like coach shouldn't be taking that much blame for how the players are playing that much, because to be honest, coach is not blocking.
Weak at best.
Coach isn't throwing. All he's doing is designing plays.
Alex? It's 110. A lot? I don't know. I don't even know who he is. Probably shouldn't have admitted that.
1,500, 1,600?
1,500? That's surprising.
Paul Richardson. I know he had like a 260-plus yard game.
Brittany? Approximately 384.
Say 575.
Between 400 and 500.
Dang! Come on, Paul. Pick it up, baby.
I think they'll play okay.
Washington, I think we got about a 75% chance of winning, man. I mean, I have faith in us regardless.
After quizzing some CU students, it looks like these fans may need to buff up on their knowledge. I'm Rose Heaphy, CU Sports Mag.
Have you figured out the answer to this week's trivia question? We know you've been thinking about it. As a reminder, the question was, which CU player was added to the 2001 College Football All-American team? The answer is Andre Giraud. The four-year starter played both center and guard on the offensive line and was an All-American Big 12 choice his junior and senior year.
That's all the time we have. Don't forget us to follow us on Twitter.
And check out our website, cusportsmag.com, for all the Buffs athletic information.
See you next week.
Bye.